Hello everyone. The topic of today's lesson is an important grammatical point that you'll encounter very soon even as a beginner. Let's see what exactly we mean by motion versus location and why it's important to differentiate between the two. Differentiating between motion and static location is important so that we can use the correct case in a given situation. If you don't know what I mean by case, watch the 3 introductory videos on that. The difference between the two is also present with certain adverbs, and so choosing the right adverb depends on understanding the concept as well. Also, it's useful to keep this difference in mind when dealing with location prepositions in general. Let's start with those first. So, how should you approach prepositions in Slovene in general? First off, it's important to understand that the same preposition doesn't necessarily always go with the same one case. It depends on the preposition in question. Some choose to hang out exclusively with one case, while others don't mind taking 2 different cases in 2 different contexts, if that's what the particular context calls for, of course. Another thing to remember that doesn't have that much to do with today's topic, but is important when dealing with prepositions in general, is that not all prepositions have a one-to-one translation to English. This seems pretty obvious if you compare any 2 languages, but one can quickly fall into the trap of trying to find a one-to-one match and using it every time. Anyway, don't count on a preposition always having the same English translation. Again, it depends on the preposition. Some are straightforward, others very tricky. As a beginner dealing with prepositions, it's important to understand the context and have an overview over what's going on. That'll help you decide which case to use. Let's talk a bit more on this last point. What do we mean by understanding the context? If you're a beginner or are just starting to deal with prepositions, I suggest always asking yourself the following question. Are we dealing with static location in a given context, or is there motion involved? If there is motion involved, it's then important to continue with the following questions. Is it motion towards something, or motion from something? All 3 are governed by a different case, with motion from being the most straightforward. The preposition from in Slovene always goes with the genitive or the second case. But for today's lesson and in general, the distinction between static location and motion towards is much more important, so let's focus on that. And let's show the difference between the two with the preposition u. It's one of the first prepositions you'll learn and is literally the English in. However, it can also be the English to, as in to go to Africa. U can express both static location and motion towards, the difference being in the case used. Let's have a look at some examples. I'm going to the store is obviously motion towards. And I'm at the store describes a static location. In Slovene, both to and at here are translated with u. However, the context demands a different case each time. The numbers 4 and 5 stand for the 4th and 5th cases, or the accusative and locative. Movement towards demands the accusative, and static location the locative. Notice that's where the locative gets its name from. Okay, now let's have a look at the building blocks that we'll use to construct both Slovene sentences. For the left sentence, we need jaz or I, iti, which is the infinitive of to go, u or the English to in this case, and trgovina or store. Everything's the same on the right side except we have the verb to be instead of to go. However, we of course use a different case and hence a different noun ending. Putting everything together we get jaz grem v trgovino, but jaz sem v trgovini. Trgovin o being the accusative of trgovina and trgovin I being the locative of trgovina. Okay, so that was a ton of information at once. Let's repeat what's important again. If we translate the English sentence I'm going to the store to Slovene, the word store has to be in the accusative. Why is that again? Because with the preposition u, we use the accusative or 4th case when describing motion towards. When translating I'm at the store, the same preposition, so u, is used, but the word store is in the locative or 5th case. Why? Because with the preposition u, we use the locative or 5th case when describing static location. Now, to make things interesting, motion towards won't always be described by the accusative. And static location won't always be described by the locative. It would be too much to try and cover everything today. However, this concept of motion versus location is very important in general. Remember, it has to do with other prepositions and cases as well, and also the use of adverbs. So for now, remember that cases numbers 4 and 5 form a pair of complementary opposites in this regard. If that's clear by now, you've already learned plenty. One final point before moving on to adverbs. In Slovene there are 6 cases. That means any noun, adjective or pronoun can be found in 6 different forms. But it's not only the nouns and noun-like words that take different cases. If you want a noun in a particular case as an answer to a question, or I should say, if a certain situation demands a noun in a particular case as an answer, the question word takes the same case as well, pointing ahead of time to the case of the word that's the answer. Similarly, we have 2 different question words to describe motion towards and static location, and they're kam and kie. They're both the English where, with kam describing motion towards, so you can think of it like the English where too. Let's add this final piece of puzzle to our previous slide. If we were to translate the English sentence, "Where are you going?" we would choose kam to translate the English where. But if the question is, "Where are you?" then we translate where with kie. That's the difference between those two. On to adverbs. Again, we have the same difference between motion towards and static location, but this time it isn't expressed by accusative versus locative, but by a pair of 2 separate, unchanging words. Let's have a look at 2 common adverbs like that. I'm going home is jaz grem domov in Slovene, so the home in going home is domov. However, I'm at home is jaz sem doma, the home in at home being doma. So it's kam domov and kje doma. Similarly, I'm going out is jaz grem ven. But I'm outside is jaz sem zunaj. So it's kam ven and kje zunaj. Well, that's it for this lesson. Just remember there is a significant difference between directed motion and static location in Slovene. Hope you enjoyed the lesson and/or learned something new. Until next time, good luck, study hard, and aim for the stars.